Hello everyone. Welcome to the May 9th episode of PubTalk Live, the live publishing talk show airing the second and fourth Saturday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern. I am your host, Sarah Nicolas. I'm a young adult author, a board member and agent liaison for Pitch Wars, and a library event planner. You can subscribe to reminders via email by clicking in the link in the description right now so you don't miss a show. You can also follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at PubTalk Live. And if you'd like to support the show, you can find a link to the Patreon near the end of the video description down below as well. And we have some of our regulars tuning in. Hey, Jay. Hi, Linda. Heather, welcome. Bess, how's it going? Yes, for anyone who's new to the show, my regulars named themselves pubbers, and I think that's awesome. So welcome, pubbers. YouTube told you this time. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to bring on my guest co-host. E.C. Myers was assembled in the U.S. from Korean and German parts and raised by a single mother in the public library in Yonkers, New York. He is the author of 6 young adult novels, including the Andre Norton Award-winning Fair Coin, The Silence of Six, and RWBY After the Fall. His short fiction has appeared in numerous magazines and anthologies, most recently 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, Mother of Invention, and Feral Youth, as well as ongoing serials Orphan Black, The Next Chapter, and Alternus from Serial Box Publishing. He currently lives with his wife, son, and 3 doofy pets in Pennsylvania. So please welcome to the show, E.C. Myers. Hi.
Hi, good evening. How's it going?
How's it going? All right. Let's see. Jessica's here. Tamara's here. No cleaning today, Tamara. Thanks. Tamara watched one of the shows while she was cleaning her shower.
Hey, Linda, aka the Gamer Girl. Some folks following me from the retro gaming scene.
That's funny. Awesome. Bess, I would like a parent that's a whole library. Bess basically has a library for a parent. Now she goes there all the time. Oh, thanks, Bess. I like my glasses too. Hey. All right. So you are in Pennsylvania. Did you get snow?
Like for 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my son was so excited though for those 2 minutes. He was like, "Does that mean I can go outside and play?" I was like, "It's not going to stick, kid." So yeah, we saw it, and then the sun came out, and then later on we went for a walk, and it was super cold and windy. It was like we were having some really weird weather right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got into like the 50s here, so that was cool.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll warm up next week because we really need to get our outdoor exercise time in these days. Yeah.
For us, it's the opposite. Like we're hoping it stays cool because it's hard to exercise in the mid 80s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So our viewer poll this week is actually from Patreon supporter Lodestar. He suggested this question. I'm going to drop it in the YouTube comments. If you haven't voted in it, make sure to go vote. And obviously, this is if you've queried a book before. What was on your most recent querying trip? What was your approximate request rate on cold queries? So should be interesting to see.
It's a fun time to be querying.
Yeah, right. All right. So we're going to jump right into some news. I'm really excited because for a couple weeks there, all of the news was related to coronavirus, like all of it. And so I'm excited that we actually have stuff that's not coronavirus related. So this one is a really fascinating story, and make sure you read the article later tonight when we drop those links in the description after the show. But the need to launch simultaneous translations of Dan Brown's Inferno created a situation so dramatic that they made a movie based on it. Translators from all over the world were flown into 2 locations where they had to surrender their phones, work without internet, and not tell a soul what they were doing. When the links drop later tonight, make sure to read that full article because it is really fascinating. Did you hear about this?
No, I was really fascinated by that one.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this sounds like a spy heist or something.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read Inferno. I don't think I even knew he had a new book out, if that's in fact a new book. But that's really exciting.
4th in the series. Well, I guess what happened was when they released the second one in the series, and I guess I'll probably also the third one, was people people in different countries, they lost a lot of sales because people couldn't wait, and so they just bought it in English. And so usually the translation is done after the English book is released. But yeah, people couldn't wait, and so all the publishers were like, we can't do that again. We lost too many sales. Anyone who could read it in English bought it in English, So yeah, so they wanted to release it. Yeah.
I thought it was impressive when we got Harry Potter the same day that it was released in the UK, because we used to have to wait for them to translate it into like American English.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing that, so that probably helped a lot. But not having to wait was helpful.
They had to change the spelling of color.
Right. But then I ended up, even though it was coming out the same day in the US, I ended up ordering the UK copies anyway, so I would have to wait like an extra week or so before I could read it.
Oh. Yeah. Jay said she helped with the poll. Jay and Lodestar they supply a lot of questions for us.
Cool.
And
it's a good question. Yeah. Especially depressing math.
Yeah.
So in other exciting news, Stephanie Meyer announced Monday that she is finally going to release Midnight Sun, a retelling of Twilight from Edward Cullen's point of view. It will go on sale August 4th.
Yeah.
So I wanted to introduce this one because little known fact, I share a birthday with Edward Cullen. I'm not sure how I discovered that. I think it was maybe I was looking at the back of like an action figure or something, and they listed his birthday. I was like, wait, that's my birthday. So it's June 20, everybody.
Oh, okay.
All the Twilight fans already knew that, I'm sure. And reading the article, the other thing that really struck me was I couldn't believe it's been 10 years since like we heard about that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer is a big fan of Twilight, I know. Jennifer, did you know Edward Cullen's birthday?
I have not read all of the books, but I did see all of the films and enjoyed some moments of many of them. So
I read all. Here we go. I definitely read all the books, and I watched 2 of the films.
Yeah. Well, I also like the phrasing of it. It's like, so the author announced that she's finally going to release it. It's sort of, I don't know. It's just the whole publishing thing of I think it's changed a lot since independent sellers can release books directly to readers. But it's just like, okay, the world is ready now. Yeah. You may have my book.
Well, she had I don't know if anyone knows, but she was writing it like 10 years ago, and someone released parts of it publicly. And she was just like so dispirited by that she put it away and she didn't want to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine what she had to go through with that.
Yeah.
Just being so high profile. I mean, I know a lot of people think about like, oh, you have like the perfect life because your books are doing really well, but there's like a downside to all of that attention as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw one author friend of mine says that he knows who leaked the book, but I didn't probe him for information. I don't think he'd give it to me anyway, but
yeah. Yeah. So I know a lot of people are going to be excited about that. That's going to be a big, is the original publisher publishing it? I can't remember.
Oh yeah. I don't remember.
It's going to be a nice boon for them.
Absolutely.
Oh, it looks like we have one of your fans here.
Oh, hey, Zeke. Old coworker, I think.
Oh, cool. All right. So on Monday, also, we had a different kind of announcement. The Pulitzer Prize were announced on Monday. And Colson Whitehead. Sorry, I was trying to say took and Whitehead at the same time. Colson Whitehead took home his second Pulitzer for The Nickel Boys. You can see a full list of winners and watch the announcement at the link that will be in the description after tonight's show and see all the winners there.
Yep.
That's exciting.
That's really
it's 2 Pulitzers in 3 years, I think that is then.
Yeah.
Not bad.
good job. Speaking of award winners, the Mystery Writers of America gave out the Edgar Awards, one of the highest awards for crime fiction, last week in a virtual gala. You can see all the winners and nominees at the link that will be in the description after the show.
Yeah, that was I read not like a lot of mystery, but I read a good amount of mystery, so I was looking forward to those. And I'm glad they decided to do it virtually.
Yeah, yeah. I started out when I was a kid. I started out reading more mystery than anything else before I discovered science fiction and fantasy, and then things skewed in that direction. I hadn't really read a lot of mystery since. But I used to read for Ellen Datlow's Year's Best Horror, so I started reading a lot of crime fiction then, and got really into it. And it looks like a really good list of books and stories. And I know the winner of the short story award, Livia Llewellyn.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't know personally any of the winners this year, which I think last year I knew several of them. So I got a little spoiled.
Yeah. I mean, I mostly know YA and science fiction and fantasy authors. So, it's only sort of like when there's that weird little crossover effect in stories that are dark enough and realistic enough to be considered for the Edgar Awards, but it's pretty cool.
I do love the crossover, though. You mentioned of switching from mystery to science fiction fantasy. I like when those genres cross over a lot.
Yeah.
I especially love the paranormal investigator type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fun. I really want to write a mystery novel one day, but I feel like mysteries are hard. I think mysteries are really hard. I mean, all writing I think is hard, and every genre kind of has its own challenges, but mystery novels have to be so tightly plotted. It's a whole other thing that I don't want to just jump into. So I'd have to read a lot more books before I attempt that. They
scare me a little bit. Yeah. All right. So if you've never been to Book Expo, formerly Book Expo America, or BEA, which a lot of people still call it, now might be your chance. Book Expo will hold an online event during their original dates, May 26th through the 29th, with BookCon, which is the commercial consumer side of it, virtual events happening that weekend. The schedule isn't available yet, but they promise it is coming soon. Have you ever been to Book Expo?
I have been. BEA. I've been to, I guess when they had it in Philadelphia one year. So I went when I was living there. It's a whole thing. It's a big thing. The whole, the ARC hunt.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the virtual version is going to go because people won't have those tote bags, but people were really into it. Like folks that I talked to, book reviewers and bloggers, they have this whole system in place where they'd get all these ARCs, and then they would have to figure out where the closest post office was so that they could mail them home to themselves because they were traveling from all over the place. But yeah, it's a good event, but it's wild. It's really wild.
I've always wanted to go. But I'm also I'm an extrovert, and I just love crowds don't bother me, and I just love people. I love book people. So
yeah. I mean, the right crowd, when you're surrounded by people who are all as passionate about something that you are, it's a different story,
Linda said, can't wait to go back to a con soon. I know it's going to be a while though.
Soon. I don't know when I don't know when I'm going to feel ready for that, but they're all closed for a while, so I'll deal with that in the fall. I think that's the earliest that some of the cons I was planning on going to have postponed. We'll see what things are like then.
Yeah, Necronomicon that I go to every year in Tampa, it was supposed to be September this year. They've already decided to do virtual instead. I was just thinking the same thing. Jennifer said one of these days I want to go to BEA, Book Expo. I was just about to say we should go when you're together.
Yeah. Well, and it's a different calculation, I guess, that organizations have to make now, because I know some were holding out for there to be that order, you have to close down so that way they could get the insurance. Insurance would cover their costs or whatever. But now events that are being planned that they've probably sunk some money into already, how do they decide? Okay, well, we need to call it and say we can't do this. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I think Necronomicon, luckily the hotel was really worked with them on it and just transferred all their contracts to a year later. So they have 2 years of contracts that they transferred out. And also they don't really pay, they pay one or two guests. So they hadn't spent any money,
Yeah. And I'm sure they're gambling on the fact that even if they were to still hold the event, that their attendance is going to be much lower than it would be otherwise. So we're bringing it down. We're bringing it back down to the coronavirus. Let's see.
That's true.
Yeah, something not related to that. Goosebumps. Goosebumps is getting a live action high-end television series from the same producer who has the films. And that's pretty cool. I used to watch the old TV show. I wonder if that's kind of a dig at the old show. I think it was on Fox, right? I mean, I liked it when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, I'm like a big scaredy cat. I don't really like horror or anything, but I actually really like Goosebumps as a kid, but I felt like it was never, it was never that scary, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm kind of hoping the film does that where it's like it kind of stays true to that where it's not that scary so I can watch it.
Yeah.
Because if it's too scary, I won't be able to watch it.
Yeah, no, I think that because you don't want kids crying,
Mm,
and you don't want letters from parents.
yeah.
But yeah, it's part of that whole like, which just reminded me like whatever happened to the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie we were supposed to be getting,
Mm,
you know?
that's right.
Yeah. So, but that's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't follow that very closely. But I did you watch the movies?
I have not seen the movies, the
I
Goosebump
haven't seen the
movies.
movies,
No.
yeah. I was just
Um,
when I saw this, I was like, I need to watch those.
yeah. Well, I guess if they're not too scary, maybe I'll see if my son wants to watch one.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if he freaks out or
That's
something.
a good metric for me. I often ask people, I'm like, is it scary? And they say no. And I say, will a 7-year-old child be afraid of it?
Hmm.
And they're like, well, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
shall report back. I'll have to see where those films are streaming.
thanks. um, a lot of Goosebumps fans in the audience. Yeah, it got a lot of people into reading, I feel like. That,
Children's books, those children's book series, like those
yeah,
franchises, which we'll have
that
another
and
one
another
coming up.
series
Yeah.
we're going to talk about. Yeah. I've always confused Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, having never read either. I'll pass. Yeah. Where are we at? Okay. The Bologna, I looked up how to say this the last time we talked about it. The Bologna Children's Book Fair hosted a virtual fair this week, drawing in more than 60,000 online viewers. The in-person fair usually sees about 30,000 in attendance. They had a global rights exchange, which allowed publishing pros to set up face-to-face meetings on their platform. Around 500 publishers registered and uploaded 20,000 titles.
That's big.
Yeah, so it seems like it went well as well, for them as well as can be expected. And
Yeah.
I know that Frankfurt is looking at probably doing something similar, or they've been calling some things mixed reality events, where they have some things in person and some things online.
Okay.
So
Is it like a robot with a video screen or
I
something?
know that's what I was like. When you say mixed reality, it makes me think of VR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No, that's interesting though, because that's a big deal, because so many publishing deals happen at Bologna.
mm-hmm,
I know my agent's always like super busy that whole week, meeting
mm-hmm.
different publishers and things like that. So to
Yeah,
not be able to have that venue would be a pretty big blow, I think.
yeah, definitely. They said that about 75% of the people in attendance were coming from not Italy. And usually when they have the in-person events, it's about 50% of them are from Italy. So we had more international participation virtually, which makes sense because, then you don't have to pay to travel and hotel and all that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no volcano eruption this year, so I think that interrupted Bologna one year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that. Oh, those were the days, right?
Right? Yes. Well, we had a volcano recently too. So anyway,
Yeah,
we're
that's
just getting
true.
everything. I think I forget. It's just like I know there was like a comment on Twitter. It was just like we're kind of hitting every disaster movie at the same time right now. Now we have murder hornets, but anyway, on a better note, are there any Babysitters Club fans in the audience tonight? So a new teaser trailer just dropped for Netflix's Babysitters Club series. The 10-episode series launches July 3rd. And that's very exciting. I used to watch that show when I was a kid as well. I used to watch that on HBO, and I read a lot of the books, which surprises a lot of people that I did. But I have a sister who's 4 years older than me, so she would bring home Sweet Valley High and Babysitters Club and R.L. Stein's Fear Street and all this stuff. And I basically read everything that was in the house. So I read most of the Babysitters Club and Sweet Valley High as a kid. And the show looks good. Like I was curious. I wasn't sure how they were going to translate things kind of to a contemporary audience, but the teaser trailer, spoiler, has like an actual, landline in it, phone for them to get phone calls on. So it looks like they're figuring it out, I think.
I love that moment though, because I remember reading that moment in the book where they're waiting for their first call. And that's what the teaser trailer is. And I was just like so excited.
Yeah.
When I saw
And
it.
the cast looks great. I mean, you can obviously tell like who's playing who from that shot, if you know. And then relatedly, the short documentary, the Claudia Kishi Club, directed by Suding, is streaming now as an official South by Southwest selection.
Oh,
so
where is that streaming at? Do you know?
So I tried to find the link for where it's streaming, and I'm not sure if you need to sign in to you know, if you have to have like a membership or something, but I'm sure it'll be available more broadly. I was feeling bad because I have a preview link in my inbox because I backed the Kickstarter, and I still haven't watched it, and which is ridiculous because I thought it was going to be like a long movie or something. I think it's like a 16-minute short film, so surely I have 16 minutes to watch that. So I'm going to do that this weekend, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this one. I don't think this one is going to be scary. I think I can watch it.
Some of the books were scary. There was a haunted house.
Oh yeah.
In one of them. But you know, it's all in the real world. So, you know, the scariest thing, I was talking, I think it was like Kelly Jensen was doing an article about Babysitters Club, and I was talking to her about, you know, how it doesn't translate that well to today's world because, you know, you've got adults calling kids to come to their houses like directly. You've got kids going out, you know, on adventures without adult supervision, and that doesn't fly in today's world. So I don't know how that's going to look on the screen, you know.
You just reminded me, this is totally off topic entirely, but my dad was watching this video. This highway patrolman pulled over this car that he thought was a drunk driver, and it ended up being a 5-year-old kid driving. Granted, it was a very large 5-year-old kid. Like he was like, his parents were football players or something, but
or a very small car.
It was an SUV.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just like, whenever I thought about, I was like, you know how people are always like, oh, kids can't do that. Kids wouldn't do that. I'm like, this kid took his parents' whole car and got on the highway with it. So
where was he going?
He said he was going to visit his sister in California.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, anything can happen. Speaking of kids, Barnes & Noble launched a short story contest for kids aged 6 to 12. They will choose 15 winners to be published in a book with a portion of the proceeds going to charity. If you have a young writer in your household, check out the link in the description later tonight. But as always, don't forget to read the fine print first. And it's a partner, or they've partnered with Gail Carson Levine. They're going to give the winners some of her books, and I think she's also doing like a intro for it as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Read the fine print. I think when I first saw that news, I was like, what are they planning to do with these stories? Like, how are they going to pay these kids? But that's really exciting. I mean, and that's a really great like age to encourage writing, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like I used to write when I was a kid, but nobody really said, hey, you should really do this as a job. Like I didn't know it was a job as a kid. So I just never thought about it as something you could do until like after college. So.
Yeah, I didn't think of it either. And I was like really good at math. And when you're really good at math and you're a little girl, people push you really hard in that direction. And so I went into engineering first. So
yeah. All right. So I get the sad news.
Oh, I meant to end on a happy news, but I moved it.
We moved it. Oh man. Well, we can turn this into no, we can't turn this into happy news. So even though we knew Macmillan laid off people, they never announced how many, but people have noticed about 25 to 35 layoffs, including tour editor Diana Foe, who was previously a guest on this show. Yeah. She's also a friend of mine. I know lots of people at Tor and at Macmillan, so this is a huge bummer. But we can put a positive spin on it. So Diana went public with the news on her Twitter account, naming Melissa Frayne is one of the other ones that she mentioned, and I forget the third one.
Diana. Is it
Gil?
Gil? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So obviously it was big news that they shared that, but also she shared ways that you can help them and help other editors in the same situation. So if you're looking for an editor to help you with your manuscript, or if you know any job openings right now or anything like that, like, check them out. And also support their books, because they still have books coming out that they've worked really hard on. So,
Diane is great. I'm just going to put this comment from Courtney. Gail Carson Levine came to my elementary school or middle school, I can't remember. And then I read her books and decided to start writing after that.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Yeah. So we did end on a positive note.
That's very cool.
Yeah. All right.
See, and that's the big difference. When I was a kid, we didn't have authors coming to schools for visits. Like, that wasn't a thing. So I never really thought of an author as an actual person out there, who I could be one day.
I only went to a very small school, so we definitely didn't have any authors visiting our schools.
Yeah.
At all. So yeah. All right. So now we're going to bring in our special guest. So our special guest this evening is Delilah S Dawson. She is the author of the New York Times bestselling book, Star Wars Phasma, hit Servants of the Storm, the Blood series, the creator-owned comics Lady Castle and Sparrowhawk, and the Shadow series written as Lila Bowen. She lives in Florida with her family in a fat mutt named Merle. So please welcome to the show, Delilah. Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. How are y'all?
A lot of people are really interested in your dog.
He's just like directly. Well, let's see here. We can do this. He's
Oh.
right there. He is.
Yeah.
He's mad at me because I clipped his toenails today and I nicked one. So he's just like,
oh no.
He got peanut butter.
Yeah.
But still.
No.
Worst day ever.
For him, well, until the peanut butter came, then he forgot everything. Like, everything was forgiven if there's peanut butter.
Heather says, hi, Delilah. Hi. Jennifer is here. And Bess. And, we got a lot of people.
Like back in the day. When
you had to go there, Bess. I've been resisting that one myself because I figured it happened.
Please don't ask me what it's like in New York City, because it's not.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Jay said, I don't know your dog, but I love him.
He's the best boy. His name is Merle. We got him he was a rescue when we lived up in Georgia. My son was 3 and he was like one of those tornado children. So we went to the animal shelter and I went to the guys who were cleaning the cages and I was like, hi, this is my son. Do you know of a dog that would maybe not hate this and welcome it? And he's the perfect dog.
Cool. Very cool. All right. So as we said in your bio, you write a lot of different formats and genres.
Yeah.
How do you decide what to focus on at any given time and what to focus on next?
Whatever is up next in the deadline queue, basically. But I'm to the point now where things overlap. So, I talk about whenever I'm considering a project or selling a project, I talk to the editor about, I have an edit due on, like right now I have an edit, I had an edit due on June 1st. So, I'm working on that now. And then once that gets turned in, I have another book that's due in September. So I'll be editing that one. So basically whatever is the most demanding and someone who's already paid for gets precedence.
All right. Well, I guess that's good. Were you listening when we were talking about writing mystery? Have you written any mystery?
I haven't written, you wouldn't find anything on the mystery bookshelf, but there have been, elements of mystery. I don't know. I'm not a person that believes really super firmly in genre. Like lots of my things could go in different directions. Wake of Vultures. I thought I was writing a YA and they decided it was, adult speculative fiction. And I was like, all right, man, that's fine. Put it on whatever shelf you want to. My first book, Wicked as They Come, I thought I was writing a, dark fantasy adventure. And they were like, put in some sex and it's romance and we'll buy it. And I was like, all right, I wrote romance. Who knew? And I went and got the bottle of wine and was like, don't tell my grandmother.
I also drink wine when writing those scenes.
I had to. That first one especially, there was so much to get through. There were so many layers of being a good girl and you live in your hometown and your grandmother is going to go to church and tell people that you wrote a book.
Yeah.
I'm sure some authors would be like, yes, I can put all the sex scenes back in the book.
Oh no, it was a polite closed door at first. And then they were like, do you want money? And I was like, okay.
So we know your price.
My price has gone up significantly.
All right. So I've enjoyed your hashtag 10 things tweets over the years. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten, either related to writing or life in general?
Wow, the best piece of advice. You know, my very first job, when I was little, I have an art degree. I'm an artist. And my very first job was at the art center where I took art classes as a kid. And the lady who ran the building, her name was Jen Gibbons. And she kept saying, you know, you're here all the time. You know, when you're 14, I'll give you a job. So the day I was 14, I showed up at the door with my little work permit and was like, you promised. And so she had to hire me. And the very first, you know, I showed up to my first day at work and I was like, what are we going to do today? And she's like, I'm going to teach you how to make coffee. So, you know, she became my mentor for many, many years. And she passed away in 2007. But that I'll never forget that, you know, she said, if you come here, I will give you a job. And she gave me a job. I worked there on and off from when I was 14 until I was 28. My last day there, I guess, was the day right before my water broke and my daughter was born. So some of my best, you know, work advice and life advice came from working at a nonprofit arts center. And then the writing came, you know, after that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
So, you know, when in doubt, start with coffee. Set yourself up for the energy you need, get in the mood for the work that you need to get. But, you know, she also taught me, she was a watercolorist and she taught a watercolor class. And she had a class she taught every day for like 20 years, or every Wednesday, same people. And they would work on their painting. You know, watercolor, it's not like oils or acrylics. It's very fluid. It moves. And they bring her their paintings and she'd take this huge paintbrush full of water and mop it up and go, try again.
Oh.
And I found writing has a lot to do with watercolor like that, you know, where it's not immutable. You can change it. There are happy accidents that you keep. There are darlings that you mop over with that transparent brush.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right. So we have a question from Patreon supporter Lodestar. I take questions from them ahead of time. And so this one is from him. I know you collaborated in writing No Country for Old Gnomes. I have always found myself a better writer when I collaborate. I didn't know it had publishing potential. What would you say are the keys to successfully co-writing a book?
I mean, for me, the key has been writing a book with Kevin Hearn because he's the nicest person I know and an incredible writer and a wonderful collaborator and an incredible friend. So finding someone that, you know, you trust. I think that's the biggest issue is if you go into a collaboration going, well, this is mine and you can't touch it. You know, if you're trying to claim ground and one up the other person, if there's a sense of imbalance, if there is a sense of ownership or a sense of pettiness, you're never going to get there. We go into this with, oh, buddy, we're going to have so much fun. Oh, you did that. That's so good. Oh my gosh. It's our edit notes are like cheerleading sessions because, you know, we brainstorm together at bars and then we have a loose outline and then he'll write a chapter and send it to me and I'll edit it lovingly. And most of it is, you know, oh my gosh, this is the best. And then I'll write my chapter and send it to him. Then he edits my chapter. And so it's kind of by the end, we have a second or third draft almost. And also if you choose someone to write with who has very complementary skills to yours, I'm a goldfish. I have a terrible memory. I'm bad at numbering chapters. I'm bad at maps or time, you know, like how long it takes to get from here to there. I'm very bad at all that. And Kevin's amazing at it. And I kind of bring the lightheartedness. I'm very fast. I'm very creative. So we have, you know, he's kind of the more left brain and I'm the more right brain, but we all merge together, but respect and making it start off with the right partner and you'll be a lot further along. Because I've heard some horror stories about collaboration.
Yeah. So it's like a improv thing, a yes and.
Yes. And is the key to everything. Yeah. To be open to those changes. Or if somebody goes in a direction that maybe wasn't what you had in mind, instead of being like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing that. You know, if instead you're like, oh, that's such a cool thing. Maybe, but I was thinking maybe we could do this. Is there a way we could like do them both? Or maybe, I mean, we only had one or two instances where one of us veered off. And because there was respect there and caring, the other person was like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to do that. That's great. You know, you just take my chapter, do whatever you want, and then I'll just do whatever you want. And like, it worked out.
Cool. So did you guys have an outline when you started or you just kind of pass it off?
It's a super rough outline. So like the first maybe 6 or 7 chapters, we'll be like, okay, well, the first one we introduce this character, the second one this character. It's all character introductions, basically.
Right.
Several, and we never knew who had come up with the character, who might write them for the first time. And so it's like you never knew what they were going to do with your character. It was so fun to see what would happen. And then after that, we'd say, like, okay, well, in chapter 8, they come upon a giant. In chapter 9, they escape the giant and cross a river. So it was like one sentence about the chapter, and then it was kind of up to you to see what happened. And there were times where you'd be like, oh, buddy, I know we normally switch off chapters, but I'm kind of not done with what I'm doing here in chapter 14. What if I do 14 and 15 and you do 16 and 17? And then you'd be like, that's great, because I wanted to do 16 and 17. Like, it's so much fun. I mean, Kevin and I, we're podcasting together with Ask the Bard podcast, and we're kind of building a story there that we're thinking about writing again. And I miss writing with him and touring with him. It's the best.
Cool. Very cool.
Question from Patreon supporter Jay Lynn. What tips do you have for writing comedy and satire in fantasy? I love the Tales of Pell, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, again, my first advice is always something most people can't do, which is write with Kevin Hearn. But for writing comedy, I feel like it's so hard to do. And what helps the most is, maybe in your first draft, put every joke in, everything that comes to mind, everything you think of, and then have someone else that you trust who gets comedy and reads comedy go in and maybe mark the ones that aren't working as much and the ones that are working. Because that's the hardest part is that's why stand-up comedians test jokes here and there, where they'll build their set and they'll keep the things that work, and then every time they'll add on 5 minutes, and what works they keep and what doesn't work they throw out, because you never know what's going to land. The thing you think is hilarious, some people might not get, and the thing that you thought was kind of subtle will really crack people up. So it really helps the collaborator, because then there were things where Kevin was like, I don't get this joke, and if somebody didn't get your joke, you don't explain it to them. You go, oh, okay, that joke didn't work, and you toss it out. But when you're just on your own, I've always had a very editorial agent who helps with that as well, because my books are mostly adventures and they have darkness, and if you have darkness, I also have a whimsical side, and I like that kind of whistling through the graveyard type humor. So it's nice to have someone else on your side that can be like, that joke isn't landing.
Yeah, my wife edited my early books, and she cut like 70% of my puns. She hates puns, so but I think the books were probably better for it, but it still hurts.
I love puns, but like with a tinge of hate, like it's one of those love-hate relationships. Jay asked a question I wanted to ask. How did you come up with Conjuring Only Bread? Was that a WoW reference?
Well, no, I mean, it's so Kevin and I in these fantasy books, every time there was a fantasy trope where we come up and you would expect one thing, to subvert the trope in a way that modernized the fantasy genre. So for instance, via she's the big, tough, muscle fighter in the chainmail bikini that, drives me crazy when I see it on covers. We're like, what if there's a very good reason she's in the chainmail bikini and it's not male gazy at all? So we had to subvert that trope. And with the Great Lord Toby, we were like, okay, the Dark Lord. Well, and Kevin was like, but what if he's not dark? He's just vaguely crepuscular. And so we were trying to think about this guy who would grow up wanting to be a dark wizard, but his skills weren't there. And we were like, what is just the most pathetic piece of wizardry that you could work? Like embarrassing. Like making purple spots on the wall is one thing, but just enough to make you keep doing it. And we're like, what if he can only conjure bread, but it's like bad bread? And we love this idea of this guy who was just like, crackers. So yeah, it's basically us sitting there going like, what is the most ridiculous thing we could think of that fits with the trope?
Okay, cool. Very nice. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. Black Spire features Vi Marati and the Black Spire.
Cardinal. See Cardinal right up here?
Oh yeah, that's cool. And the Black Spire Outposts on Batu, which are both part of what most people call Star Wars Land at Disney. I know that's not its official name, but that's what everyone here calls it. How did that creative collaboration work between you and like the team of Imagineers?
Yeah, that was a really neat one because I stan Imagineers. Like, some people get really kind of tongue-tied around celebrities, and I'm like, the Imagineers, I'm like, oh my God, do you know what you do? Yeah, I met Scott Trowbridge and freaked out. But yeah, so I'd written Phasma, where we created the character of Vi Marati and the character of Cardinal to have kind of 1001 Nights Scheherazade sort of tale come out. Rather than seeing things through Phasma's eyes, we hear stories about Phasma. And right before the book came out, originally Vi's name was Amaka. Her name was Amaka Marati. And right before Phasma came out, we got this email that was like, hey, would you mind if we changed her name to Vi and used her in the parks? And we were like, no, please do. Change anything you want. And that's all we ever heard of it. Nobody came back to us. Nobody sent us a dossier or anything. We're like, oh, well, we changed the name. It's kind of weird to have one character named Vi and one named Civ, which is kind of Vi's backwards. Whatever, they'll do whatever they want. It's Disney. And then at the first Galactic Nights, when they kind of teased Galaxy's Edge, there was a collectible card that was like, Resistance by Vi Marati, da-da-da-da-da. And she kind of looked like Black Barbie with this big black ponytail, and she was like shooting a gun like Han Solo, and we were like, wait, whomst? What? She's like real? And even then, we didn't know she was going to be the main character, like, the Disney princess walking around. It's just mind-blowing. So as more of that came out, we got the invite to write Black Spired, to carry on the characters from Phasma, and got permission to bring Cardinal in there. And then so they, when I started writing Star Wars, I thought they were going to send me a world Bible. And they're like, no, make it up. Oh. And so when I was writing Black Spire, I was like, do I just make it up? And they were like, no, there's the Bible. So I had like this 180-page PDF. It was not, you couldn't skip through it. You had, if you were like, what was that guy's name again? You're like, scroll. And you couldn't print it out. And my name was printed all over it. And sometimes, I didn't have enough permissions to open it randomly, or it would change. I'd get like, I'd be like, oh God, what changed? Like, I can't go through 180 pages. So it was exciting. And then I got one call with the Imagineers, which was super fun, where I had like this long list of questions, and it felt like, it felt like when you're buying a house, you're like, okay, so that's all these questions. And my favorite one was, I was like, okay, well, what does it smell like? And they're like, what do you mean? It's Florida, you live here. And I was like, well, yeah, but like when you go to Pandora in Animal Kingdom, like it has this smell that's kind of this bluish, greenish, kind of misty ocean smell. And, when you go to Belle's Castle, like this smell, what's the smell? Like I'm walking into another word, what's the smell? And their eyes got me and they're like, meat? It smells like meat. And I was like, you would be like, maybe we should think about that. Because I want it to smell like saffron and cinnamon and spices, and we get raw tab roasters though, so I wrote that into it. But yeah, I really wanted to make it as an immersive experience as you can get with. If you can't go to Galaxy's Edge, which right now you can't, nobody can, but it should be as close as you can come to being there, to just seeing the things that you'll see, the things you'll hear, the things that you'll smell that happen to be meat, the things you'll taste, and the characters there.
And the meat.
So cool.
And I also got to talk to Zoraida Cordova, who was writing Crash and Fate at the same time. And we were the only people in the whole world who could talk about this other than our editors. So it was very much a lifeline.
That's cool. Really cool. Yeah, that you were able to kind of share that, and maybe help each other out.
Yeah. Oh, it was, and then we got to go there for opening week, and it was amazing.
Very nice. So shifting gears again, since we started by talking about your dog, any plans for a collection of your dog's poetry?
No, because he's kind of getting older, and he doesn't really do a ton. Like, I started making myself sad, because it was like, how often can you just talk about like my dog sleeps all day and feels the lonesome howl outside and wants to pee on things he shouldn't. So it kind of slowed down. But he's still the very best boy he's storing. He gets all the peanut butter.
You said in previous interviews, you kind of alluded to it, that you have synesthesia. Can you explain for our viewers what that is, like especially what it looks like for you and how that plays into your writing?
Sure. So synesthesia in layman's terms is when your senses get kind of fun tangled up a little bit. Those are the people who can see music, that sort of thing. Mine is number letter grapheme. So letters have distinct colors that have been the same since I was I remember 5 was the first time I got in trouble for explaining to the teacher. I was like, W isn't yellow. And she was like, it is on the poster, sweetie. And I was like, it shouldn't be. That's not the color it is. And so I got like written up in kindergarten for talking back to the teacher because W was the wrong color. I was like, W is pink. And she was like, no, that's yellow. You're like, yeah, so I didn't actually find out that synesthesia existed till I was 17. I just thought everyone did this. But it was such a relief because like the colors that are assigned to numbers and letters and days of the week and things like that are not what I would choose. Like I'm an artist. I have this artistic palette. I have colors that I love that I think go together well. And they're ugly colors that I don't like, that don't make sense. Where 2 is like, I call it Lion King color. It's like the color of baby Simba, this kind of babyish, orangish, yellowish. And then 3 is, kind of this, it's green. It doesn't look good with that orange. And, like 9 is this kind of rusty orange, red, rusty. They're all terrible. 5 is this beautiful azure blue, but I hate 5. Like 5 is a bad number for me because synesthesia also comes with like there's personalities to things. So it's very fun. And I think it goes into my work because when I'm writing a scene, I'm using all of the senses. It's when you walk into a marketplace, I'm not just going to say like, hey, there's a camel, there's a rug. I'm going to say, something skitters past your leg and you smell burning bread on the air. And, you feel a shiver as you pass by the fish on the ice from the cold. So I'm very well aware of all of the senses and how important that is. And I think also sometimes my metaphors can get a little colorful because that's kind of how it goes sideways. But it's neat. My kids have it too. And if you get us all talking about like what color 1 is, like things get very ugly. And I'm like, look, my colors have been this way since the 1980s.
Yeah. I had a friend who had it, but hers manifested she saw numbers as shapes. And when she did math, like the shapes came together.
Yeah, see, I can't do math in my head because the numbers don't work. So like the color of 1 plus the color of 2 does not make the color of 3. And my head wants, yellow plus blue equals green, not yellow plus vaguely orange makes green. So I can't do math in my head at all.
Yeah.
I wish I had something that made numbers more interesting.
I mean, interesting and like having any kind of gift with them or understanding them better are not the same thing.
Yeah, true. Okay. So you touched on this earlier, but can you please tell us a little bit more about your podcast, Ask the Bards? Oh, sure. We just recorded episode 12. It's our first. First of all, it's Kevin Hearn and I who wrote the Tales of Pelt together. We met in the Carney Punk anthology that he did back in like 2012 or 13, I guess. But we're very good friends in real life. And so we're doing this podcast because we want to help writers. Both of us feel like we came to writing later in life and we learned so much online from, that was the time of blogs, agent blogs, editor blogs, writer blogs, and from people helping out with writing advice on Twitter. But Twitter has gotten so antagonistic now. Like, I think you mentioned my 10 things earlier where I would, pick a topic and hashtag 10 things and talk about it. I got so much negativity on that, pushback, rudeness, argumentativeness, that it became this huge downer where I dreaded it every day. So after 60 days straight, I stopped and really only did it when I had something really important to say, but I still wanted to help people. So we figured with the podcast, we take questions from Twitter, or wherever people ask us questions, and then we talk about them together, as New York Times bestselling authors with bunches of books and 10 years under our belts about, the real answers to things that you might not be able to find by Googling, or, blogs are kind of dying off. So the blogs where we found this information in 2010 may not be the best place to get this information now.
Cool. Courtney said, Ask the Bards is my lifeline at the moment, in addition to Wednesday write-ins here. Cool. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, so episode 12, we just recorded on Thursday with our buddy Chuck Wendig as our first guest. So that was super fun because we all get along extremely well and have very similar, thoughts on the publishing industry and writing.
Yeah. And I think I met, Well, Delilah, I met you at Coastal Magic, I think, but we hung out a lot at Dragon Con. I met Eugene at Dragon Con. I met Chuck at Dragon Con.
I think that was 2015. That was a very nice year for Dragon Con.
Yeah. So looping back into the cons from earlier. Oh, I know.
This was going to be my first BEA, my first book.
Oh,
no. My heart is like, bleh. So sad. And like, right. So I keep moving through stages of grief where like, I've gotten over Emerald City. This is one of my all-time favorite cons I was looking forward to. Now I get to start mourning San Diego. Like, it's almost time to mourn that.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't know what's going to be back to normal, but, well, normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So final question. And I don't think Ebony is here. Usually she comments on the faces that people make when I ask this question. But Delilah's actually...
and I have thoughts.
Delilah's actually answered this question for me before, so it wasn't a total surprise for her. What is the most important book you've ever read and why?
I've actually got a couple here because it's stages. So I think the first one was Watership Down. I was in a VHS rental store, not Blockbuster, our local video store in like the 80s, and I saw a cartoon with rabbits on it. And I was like, "Oh, Dad, can we rent that?" And he was like, "No, honey, we can never rent that." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "It's a book. It's a terrible book. It's a scary, mean book." And I was like, so I went to the library and I found it and I took it up to the librarian and she was like, "Oh, honey, you don't want this. You can't have this until you're in 5th grade." Because I was in 2nd grade. And she was like, "This is too big of a book for you." And this is like the only naughtiness of like my entire life. But back then there were no computer scanners. It was all handwritten. I put the book in my backpack.
Oh no.
And I took it home and I read it cover to cover. And then I brought it back and was like putting it back on the shelf. Like it was our little secret. So it was this kind of stolen joy, but that book just, it's mind-blowing. And the character and the prose and the adventure and the bringing horror to animals, but it really got me in a way that I don't think a book about people could, because it was so accessible to a child. It's hard for an 8-year-old to really take on a book that's about love and loss and war and genocide when it's about, people, but when it's about rabbits, you're like, yeah, okay, I'm here for it. And then after that one, Jean Owl's Clan of the Cave Bear, moving into Valley of Horses, allowed me to see a woman as a heroine. Ayla is like, I think of it as fantasy. Like she's a heroine. She tamed horses. She tamed wolves. She tamed cats. She learned, she came up with new ways to throw spears. Like she was incredible. And then you move into Valley of Horses. That was my first time seeing sex positively discussed in a book and lovingly. And I was like, a healthy relationship. And the woman is not an object. It blew my mind to the point where I was like, oh God, if my mom knows I have this book, because I was 13. It's like, if she takes this book away. So I like hid the book from her. She's like, where was that book? And I was like, who could say? I also read Pet Sematary around that time, which blew my mind. And then the latest book that blew my mind was probably Outlander. Because I didn't know you could write a saga historical romance and have it hit that hard. And it made me realize what was possible as a writer.
All right. How many was that? Like 4 or 5?
When I read it? No,
4 or 5 books.
Oh God, there's like 6 or 7 now, and I think there's one more.
No, I meant that you chose.
I have lots of books. I can have more. Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris. Who knew you could put vampires in Louisiana?
All right. We're gonna stop. So just keep going.
Well, she'll need other books to.
Delilah Likes Books podcast.
Yeah. She'll need other books to name next time you ask her the question.
That's true. All right, Delilah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You can find Delilah's website and social media links in the description down below, so you can find her and check out her books and follow her on Twitter and all kinds of things. And thank you, Delilah. And
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming. I was so glad
to hang out.
For anyone who doesn't know, Delilah was kind of like a last minute, like we had a cancellation, and Delilah agreed to come on this week. And she was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And so that was awesome. Because she was already on my list to invite. So just got moved up the list a little bit. Cool. All right. And have a good night, Delilah.
Thanks, you guys. Good night. Thank you, everybody who tuned in to listen.
Okay. That was fun.
Yeah.
I love talking to Delilah every time we get to be together.
Yeah, I never seen. I think the last time I saw her was maybe it was it Denver or Phoenix? I don't remember. It was last summer at Econ, and there's never enough time to like chat. There's like you know, the last time I saw her, she was surrounded by other writers and fans, and that's where I met Kevin first time. So this is probably like the longest conversation I've had with Delilah, which is awesome. But she's really great in person and online, and so
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't have an audiobook of the week this week, unfortunately, because I was the lead video producer for Everywhere Book Fest. So last week was just completely lost in terms of productivity. So I didn't really.
Well, it sounds like you were fantastically productive just in other areas.
Yeah. I had to focus on that. So, but it worked out because we got it was something like 40,000 views while the con itself was going on. So yeah, it was great. But I'm still going to do an audiobook giveaway. So if y'all want to win an audiobook in the comments right now, I'm going to choose a number. I'm going to tell Eugene what it is in our private chat because I forget it if I don't. A number between, let's say, 1 and 20. So let me think. And if you've seen this before, you know the rules. Guess one, and when I read yours and tell you that it's not the right number, then you can guess again after you've seen me read it. And it takes about 20-30 seconds there's like a little bit of a lag. So we'll probably see those all pop up in just a second. I already forgot my number. See?
But what color is that number? I wonder.
I have no idea. We're going to have to.
Yeah.
10. Linda says 10. No, that is not the number. And okay, a whole bunch popped up. Laura and Jay both said 17. It's not 17. That was the first time. People keep guessing it again. Courtney says 14. No. Also Jennifer, no. Tamara said 18. Nope. Heather 4. Angel 5. Bess 2. I feel like y'all are guessing every number except my number. And while the next round of guesses are coming in, I have a list on, this is through Libro FM. I have a subscription, but I get pretty much any audiobook I want from publishers now because I write for Book Riot. And so I'm just giving away the audiobooks instead of canceling my subscription. So
cool.
Where were we at? Best with 2, I think is the last one I read. So, they're jumping. Jessica 7, Jay 11, no. Courtney 8, no. Jennifer 5, no. Linda 1, Laura. I'm glad you made it, Laura, by the way. 3, no. 3. People are guessing the same numbers. That's why it's taking so long. We're so close, guys. We're so close. Tamara 13, no. 13 is my favorite number, though. I think that's why I consciously don't pick it. Do you have a favorite number?
The correct number is still out there. Do I have it? No, I don't think I have a favorite number.
No.
Never really thought about it much.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have kids. My niece asks me all the time what my favorite everything is. So,
I wonder if my son has a favorite number. I'll ask him.
Angel 20, no. 6, no.
Wow. 9,
no. 11, no. Come on, guys. I feel like it's the only number you haven't 2, nope. So close, so close, so close. Come on. I'll tell y'all it's in the top half of that. So we'll do 11 to 20 and it'll come through, hopefully. I've always liked 8. Okay, cool. 7. We're so close, so close. Heather, so close. 16.
We got to do like colder, hotter.
Jessica got it.
15. Yes.
Yay.
Congratulations and thank you.
Yeah. Whew,
thought that was going to go on all night.
I know.
This is why you do it last.
Yeah. Jessica, you know how to get a hold of me, so just go ahead and message me and tell me if you already know which book you want. You can choose from any previous audiobook of the week. And but if you don't remember what those are, I can send you the list. All right, so now it's time to discuss the viewer poll. On your most recent querying go, what was your approximate request rate on cold queries? And I need to share that window real quick. Let me just.
Courtney says that was painful.
Yeah, that took longer than expected. Why isn't? Oh, sorry guys. My window got closed, so I'm just gonna open that up, and now we're ready. Okay. This one. There we go. All right, so we had about most people said 0 to 20%, less than 20% was their cold query request rate. 78% of people, that's a strong majority. And 15% said 21 to 45. 46 to 70%, 3.8%, and it looks like 2 people got above a 70% request rate on their most recent querying, which that's that's a lot. And again, this question was brought to us by Patreon supporter Lodestar. I asked the Patreons what kind of question they wanted to know, and that was what he wanted to know. So that gets crazier each week. Yeah, the winner's announcement. I know, I need to figure out a faster way of doing it or something. I vaguely remember mine. I think it was like right around like 40-ish. But I was also a book publicist, and so like I knew I could write a pitch.
So when does the round end? Is the latest round of querying? Is that because I know when I queried ages ago, I went in sort of like waves. So I would send out, one batch, and then I would kind of tweak it, because I wasn't getting the responses I wanted.
Yeah.
And then, but I guess in total, by the time I was done, it was probably 30%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it looks like the majority is under 20%, which I think might be comforting to a lot of people, because I think a lot of people feel like everyone else is getting all the requests,
Yeah, no, those numbers looked right to me, actually. I was actually surprised that there was like 2.8% getting, 70% or more.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think it also depends. Like if you're, mid-career querying where you already have books published, or you're very targeted in your querying, like you're only sending to people that are specifically interested in that thing, you might have a higher request just because you're so targeted, or you have, experience or that kind of thing. So I think that might be some of those.
Yeah, that's true. And then it's also probably affected by like time of year, like when are you querying?
Yeah. All right, so the last thing we have to do is the reading quote of the week. It's a short one this time. Fiction reveals truth that reality obscures, by Justin West.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it. So we do quote of the week just because I like quotes and for no other reason. And I think it's a nice way to end the show. So
it's a good enough reason for me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, Eugene. I'm glad we got you on the show. I'm glad you came out and chatted with me. And I'm going to say goodbye to you. And I'm just going to do some of the outro things, and I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay?
Cool. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you all so much for coming out. This was a great show tonight. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like and subscribe right down there so you don't miss another episode, and tell your friends. And you can also subscribe via email in the description, so you can receive an email about each show the day of, so you don't forget. And the Patreon link is also in the description if you'd like to go and support the show. I'm really trying to get it syndicated into a podcast, and I basically am looking to cover the podcast platform fees, so that's what I'm looking to do right now with a Patreon. Social media for our guests is in the description, along with the PubTalk Live social media. And we already have next episode's guests scheduled. So next episode, we have I.W. Gregorio is going to be my guest co-host, and Ellen O is going to be my special guest. So I'm very excited for that. So make sure you tune in. That's going to be May 23rd for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.